Welcome back to We Move Through Stormy Weather, a podcast by Storm Sound. My name is Ryan Storm, and today I'm joined by Jeff Arevalo. Primarily known as the percussionist for Goose, Jeff is a multi-instrumentalist who is a member of an incredibly wide-ranging variety of bands. Today we're going to dive into some of his musical history and find out just how many projects he has going on at once. Jeff, say hi.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello. Thank you so much for being on today. Very, very excited to chat about your music and your projects that you've got going on. Been looking forward to this for a while. Before we get started, however, I'm very excited to announce that today's episode of We Move Through Stormy Weather is sponsored by Evergio Wellness. Evergio functional mushrooms are here to help right now, whether you are gearing up for a show, going to sleep afterwards, or recovering and restoring the day after. With a wide range of health benefits, Evergio mushrooms help you make the most out of the moment through the ancient healing properties in their highly potent fruiting bodies. The organic certified therapeutic potency and their planet positive refill system are two of the many standout reasons that Evergio is my choice supplement. Be clear, chill, balanced, energized, protected, focused, and calm in the moment with Evergio mushrooms. Use code STORMSOUND15 for 15% off your order, and it ships anywhere in the USA and Canada. Pretty cool stuff. So without further ado, this is generally a Phish podcast, so I just want to start with that kind of a jumping off point. Jeff, what is your history with listening to Phish and being immersed in the music?
So really cool story. I believe it was after one of my first recording sessions, which was for my brother's album, and I was playing percussion, and his friend Nicholas Craster, who's a very skilled guitarist, especially in like the flamenco tradition. He gave me a cassette, and it was a Phish tape, and he wanted me to listen to the way that Fishman plays, specifically like Independence, and different polyrhythms, and the recording was Stash. Oh. So that was my first introduction, and I was blown away at what Fishman was able to do, and I got pretty into it as a teenager. Bought a bunch of the live stuff. I don't remember how many. I probably bought like eight double discs live, and I spun it pretty heavily in when I was probably 16 years old, driving around in my car for the first time, and we still had big like CD books. Mm-hmm. And I remember having all the Phish in there. So that's kind of how I got into it.
It's pretty cool. So other than, Phish at that time, what other kind of music were you listening to when you were growing up, like as a kid in high school and college, like different stages?
So, I think as a kid, everyone listens to what their parents listen to.
Right.
My dad was a big music fan. He was in the restaurant business, but he was a musician on the weekends, had bands, played guitar, all that stuff. And we actually had in our home, we had a really big CD library. Like a lot of people have, studies with books wall to wall. Well, my dad had that, but we also had CDs wall to wall. Mm-hmm. And he'd pick out 5 different discs every day, put it on the 5-disc changer, and there was speakers all throughout the house. So listened to a lot of like blues, rock, Americana, jazz, some folk. Growing up, I remember my mom was really into Eddie Money, so listened to a lot of Eddie Money, and I also remember her being into the Doobie Brothers and some Steely Dan. And then nice. the radio was probably like 50s and 60s radio back when they used to play the old school stuff. Right. High school kind of got more into like rap, I guess. I mean, even before high school, I was listening to a lot of rap, kind of grew up on hip hop and rap and stuff. But, I kind of became a professional drummer around the age of 16. So I was playing a lot of top 40 stuff, classic rock, blues. One of the first original bands I was in, the guy Mac Earhart was really into like Jack Johnson and sort of like surfy type stuff, being from Sarasota, Florida. So there was a lot of Sublime, Jack Johnson, some OAR, that type of stuff. And then in college, Just dove really head first into a lot of jazz. Listened to a lot of jazz in college. Yeah.
You were at Berkeley, right?
Yes.
Big, very, very multifaceted musical background. That's really, really cool. And then were drums your first instrument?
So no, technically guitar was my first instrument. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I got a red K electric guitar and this little 5-watt battery powered Marshall amp. And I remember the first song I learned how to play was Wild Thing. A chords A, D, and E. And I'm this little kid trying to play this guitar and I'm singing it and, taking a really long time to get to the chords and it hurt my fingers. I tried out for the school talent show and playing that song, playing it and singing it. And I wish I had a video of that because it would be awesome. Amazing. And they wanted me to like open up for like my rivals that had like put together this Beatles band. And, little 8-year-old with a big ego, I was like, I'm not opening up for anybody. And I pretty much put the guitar down and went back to being a kid for 8 years or whatever. When I was 14 or 15, started playing percussion. My brother and my dad bought me a set of congas, started learning some of like traditional rhythms. I had a really great teacher and I gigged a little bit, maybe for about a year or two. And then they bought me a drum set and I just dove into that head first.
That's awesome. And then how did you get to, everything else? Like, you play a ton of instruments. Like, did you just naturally pick up bass and keys and, saxophone along the way?
Well, being a drummer, I remember the first bass player I played with, the first band I played with was my dad's band. And actually I started on a cowbell and a shaker and a tambourine. And then I got some drum lessons and then I would bring out a hi-hat and a snare drum. Then I got some more lessons. I added the kick drum. And then I was slowly building this drum set as I was learning to play. And this bass player, rest in peace, Sanderson Poe, was an upright bass player. He was trained. He was a jazz player. He played a lot of different stuff though. And he kind of taught me how to play drums. And also, just playing with him, I fell in love with the instrument and he would show me some things on the bass. So I was really interested in the bass and being a drummer, like hopefully you're listening to the bass a lot. So I'd get a bass line in my head and I would go to the bass and like learn how to play it. And my brother's a bass player and a guitar player and my dad's a bass player and a guitar player. So my brother would show me some things. He showed me like my first walking bass line. And it wasn't really until I took a break from school. I went year round twice. I did 4 semesters starting in the fall of 2009. And then I guess 2011 and this first half of 2012, I took a break from school. I didn't know what I wanted my major to be. And so I went back to Florida and honestly, there weren't enough drum gigs. So I decided that I'll learn how to play bass. And I started practicing, borrowed my brother's bass, and I was like learning his bass lines on his album and stuff. And I played my first show. Well, I sat in and I played 3 songs and I'll never forget like how that felt. And then I played my first full show on bass and it was just like full steam ahead from there. And then I took some lessons on the upright. And then it probably wasn't until years later that I really started gigging on that full time, maybe 2014 when I came back from college that I started taking that instrument seriously.
Got it. And so, you mentioned being from Florida. How did you, I know you've lived in some different places, but how did you end up in Connecticut and originally connect with the other guys from Goose and originally the Pseudo?
So 2009, Boston, it was first period harmony. I think it was Harmony 2 with Eric Byers, great teacher. And I was in there and Rick was in there. And I was probably, a smart ass the first week of school or something. I tended to be like a class clown, teacher's pet. I don't know what you want to call it. Yeah. So second week of school, he's like, hey, you want to hang out? And we became fast friends. So sort of best friends since the beginning, 2009. And that's when I started visiting Connecticut. And then I guess it wasn't until 2012 that I joined Vasudo. And then I graduated. I graduated December of 13. I moved back to Florida in 2014. And then I came back that year to do some of the St. John's Revival stuff, which is a band few people know about that predates Goose.
That's I think Elmeg is a St. John's Revival tune. I know there are a couple.
Yeah, I don't know exactly which of Rick's tunes
you just play the drums.
Yeah, which tunes belong to which band name, but we did that in 2014, and then he went back to school and finished, and I think it was August of 2016 I came up for his like graduation party, and we played some funny gigs, and he's like, yeah, you should move up here. And he planted that seed, and I went back to Florida, and I was looking at 30. I was about 29 years old, and I was looking at what I was doing, and I decided if I was going to leave Florida, it was going to be now. Right. And I left Florida May 4th, 2017, moved to Connecticut. Rick and his mom let me stay with them for about a month until I figured stuff out, and the rest is history, as they say.
So obviously, people know you as the percussionist and leader of the Gong Gang in Goose. But obviously, as I mentioned in the intro, you are in so many different bands right now. Let's talk about some of them. What else do you have going on outside of Goose?
So there's a few. I got to write them down so I keep track of all of them. So obviously Goose. Some people know about Vasudo. So this is a band that kind of predated Goose. We put out an album called Call It Lewis. Check that out. Arevalo is the acoustic trio. Peter, Rick, and I, we just played a show.
We need more of those shows.
We do need more of those shows. Check that out. There's another group that I can't really talk about yet, so stay tuned. And then Tupelo Conjure, I think you shared our new single the other day.
I did. Yeah, it came out recently called Supernova.
That's it. So this is a Florida-based band, sort of built out of best friends. We're working on our second album. I think the band was formed in 2014. I forget. But we started recording the second album kind of after I moved up here. I would just go visit, and we would do sessions. Rick Almerode is the leader of that band. The other Rick, that's one reason I call Rick Rich, so I don't confuse these two. Stephen Durst.
Are you the root of the confusion between Rich and Rick?
I take no credit for that. That's you got to ask somebody else. I don't know. Stephen Durst is the bass player of that band. One of my best friends from high school. He's outside of Trevor, he's my bass player. We've been playing together since 2007. I feel like he knows what I'm going to do before I do it. So he's my buddy. We got Ben Alemon on keyboards in that band. Another Berkeley guy. He played with Dr. John. He played with Ryan Adams, and he played in Grace Potter's band, among others. I'm forgetting the name of his current projects, but great guy. And then Michael Sines is a good friend. He did a lot of the production work on that, the sort of DJ and the drum programming and stuff. And then Philip Creamer is our newest member, and he did the vocals on that track, and we're very excited to have him. He's incredibly talented. So yeah, Supernova, that's the first track on the forthcoming album.
Did you guys record this in person, or are you virtually collaborating from Connecticut?
Everything was recorded in person. Like I said, I would visit Florida, and it was mostly recorded at Bay Sound Studios there in Sarasota, Florida. I think Rick, the leader of the band, went to New Orleans with Ben to do the keyboard tracks, and Philip did the vocal tracks in Nashville. So it's probably been recorded in 3 or 4 different studios, but all in person.
And how long has this album been in the works for? Is this a recent project?
I feel like I feel like we may have been working on it since 2017, piecing it together with the different tracks.
Yeah, well, check out Supernova. It's on streaming services. Great tune. Can't wait to hear the rest. We have not gone through all of your bands yet.
Yes,
Believe
sorry.
it or not, there's more.
I got stuck at Tupelo Conjure. Yeah, Tupelo, like I said, we have, I say we're working on our second album, but we kind of had an acoustic EP also. So the first album was called The Leptons. That's on Spotify and all that stuff. You can check that out. So tonight I'm playing with my band Jed, J-E 2 Ds, and I'm in that band with the Edwards brothers, Previn Edwards on guitar and Kieran Edwards mostly on keyboards, although he also plays guitar. And we have a bass player named Max Parati, who we call Mango Max. Tonight we're at Toad's Place in New Haven, opening for Spafford. So we're very excited about that.
How did this band come together? And I know, based on what I've seen off of your release on Bandcamp, you guys play a really interesting mix of tunes. And I'm curious how you guys, came together as a band and how you decided what you were going to play.
Yeah, so I actually met the brothers through Peter. I'm not sure how he met them, but it was something like maybe Previn was borrowing Peter's bass head and I wanted to use it. And there was actually a chance that they could have a place for me to practice my drums. I lived in an apartment and didn't have a place to practice for a whole year. So it's pretty difficult being a professional drummer and not being able to practice. So met them, became fast friends with Previn, and they actually let me set a drum set up in the basement of their house. And we just kind of started jamming. And I remember the first time I jammed with Previn and Kieran, it was just the three of us, drums, keys, and guitar. And we just made some beautiful music, just off the cuff. And I was like, we got to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the band born. I just sort of thought of a name. I was like, Jeff, Edwards, Jed. Great. And yeah, that's kind of how that went. Yeah, so that stuck. Our first bassist was Fran, incredibly creative guy, and we did some recordings with him, some original stuff. Our bass player Max now, another great guy, plays in a band called Honeydew, among others, locally. We really love Max and the energy that he brings to it. So yeah, we're gonna work on creating more of our own music and playing less of other people's.
I saw you guys have covered like Krungbin, King Gizzard, like
crazy
stuff. So it's cool.
Crazy.
Dead tour. So Holy Smokes. What's Holy Smokes?
Holy Smokes. Very fun cover band. I've been playing with these guys probably since like 2018. I sort of took a break from music in 2017 to focus on another career. I was in sales for a few years. And
then Rick and Peter roped you back in.
No, actually, my friend Jake Heady actually wrote me back in, and I'll get to him eventually. He kind of brought me out of retirement. He was a friend I met in Florida that lives in Providence now. I started going to some open mics here to get out and play, and also got back into teaching lessons. And I was teaching some of my sales clients, students, guitar lessons, and I went to Sam Ash to purchase a guitar for one of my students, and the sales associate there, Duncan Lindsay, was like, hey, we got this jam on Tuesday. Why don't you come down? And so I went down to the jam. It was at Stellar Blues in New Haven and had a blast. He introduced me to Marty Carney, who's the lead singer of the Holy Smokes. He's actually a plastic surgeon at Yale. Next thing you knew, we had a band. And we called it the Holy Smokes. We're still playing. Duncan was our first guitarist. He kind of moved away. We had another guy, and I'm blanking on his name right now, which is unfortunate. and then Duncan moved back, and Jordan was our second guitarist. He graduated and left. Duncan moved back. He's sort of back in the band when he can do it, and it's really fun. I play electric bass in that one. And it's sort of a mix between like rock and Americana and whatever else we want to play.
Yeah, very cool.
Nothing but fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next band, Velez. So back to that, when I started going to open mics, I was sort of at this like old man jam in Norwalk, and all these weekend warriors would bring their guitar rigs out and play the same song every week, and I'd go play bass and drums on whatever I could do. And this young kid came in, Jeffrey Velez, came in playing guitar. and
Jeffrey
singing.
Velez, not to be confused with Jeffrey Arevalo. Very similar sounding names.
So he's amongst friends, he's J1 and I'm J2. We call the band Velez. You can check him out on Instagram. Call me Velez, Velez. Incredibly talented singer, songwriter, guitar player. We have a trio together. Really want to get him in the band in the studio because I think everyone needs to hear his music.
Yeah.
And I play the 5-string electric bass in that band. It's I call it neo soul, but it's sort of rock, blues, R&B, and his harmony is really colorful. So I guess you'd have to throw some jazz in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's Velez. All right, we're moving along here. Oh, and I've been playing with those guys for probably since 2018 also. So next band, Lucidity. This is a newer project for us. This is a Tame Impala tribute group. It's myself on bass, both Edwards brothers. Previn's sort of the leader on guitar, keys. I play some synth bass. He plays some synth. Kieran plays lots of keyboards. We have Alex Bailey, the drummer for Eggy, is in that band. And we have our good buddy Garrett on percussion. And we just booked a show, our second show, and our New York City debut. We're playing at the Sultan Room in Brooklyn on November 26th.
Wow.
So very excited for that. Yeah, love it. If you like Tame Impala, you're going to love this band.
Sounds very exciting.
Very exciting. And then I sort of have 3 more guys here. Jake Heady, who I mentioned earlier, kind of brought me out of retirement. He was a friend, keyboard player that I played with in Florida, and I found out he lived in New England. And he hired me for my first gig in New England when I was living here. And I'm actually going to play drums with him this Friday night in Providence at Barnaby's Public House, I think, something like that. So Jake, honorable mention. We have Matt McNulty, who I'm playing with on Saturday, and that's the host of Ghost show, and we're covering a bunch of Fish tunes with Chris DeAngelis from Kung Fu and Isaac Young, I believe is his last name, from No Mind.
This is your pre-fall tour rehearsal time right here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got to keep my chops up, so what better
Exactly.
way than playing with 10 different bands?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Saturday, and then after that, actually, Velez is playing a show at O'Neill's in Norwalk. That's 10 to 1. So got nice 4 drum gigs this weekend, 4 different bands. Keep the chops up.
Yeah.
And then Farmer Pete Campbell is Matt Campbell's older brother. Matt Campbell is the keyboard player, singer and songwriter from Vasudo. Farmer Pete started writing songs and he's recording an album, and I've been recording some bass and drums for him. So very excited to continue that and help him finish his album. I think he's a great songwriter. Having a lot of fun playing with him. And then I have to mention my brother, Pedro Arevalo. I played on his first 3 albums, and we're trying to make a plan to record another one. So very excited for that. We're going to figure out how to do that, and hopefully get our dad involved too. So yeah, that's all that I can think of right now. There may be some other bands that I'm forgetting, and
just a few projects that you're involved in.
Yeah, and the bands I haven't even started yet. So
yeah. I'm curious, do you find it difficult sometimes to pivot between the two? I know you played a Jed gig the day after Radio City with Goose in June, and sometimes it's a very quick turnaround. Is there ever like a, adjustment period, or, sometimes you feel a little bit like disoriented going from one to the other so quickly?
Yes and no. One thing I love about it is that it's always fresh, doing something different all the time. I play a lot of instruments and I have a lot of interests and I like a lot of different music. So I feel like I have to be in a lot of different bands in order to fulfill my like creative needs. So, scheduling is one thing. Goose obviously is the main thing, and it's going to stay the main thing. So I just try to fit the other groups in when I can around that, and find time for rehearsal. We rehearsed last night for our show today. I got 3 more shows, and then right after I come back from tour, I got to start rehearsing for the other bands. So it's fun. I really like to stay busy, and I love making music every day. I get stir crazy when I sit for too long. So
you alluded to earlier, being brought out of retirement and how you kind of got roped into Goose in a way in 2020. Do you mind sharing that story and really curious how that happened. You went from sales to bingo tour.
Yeah. So, Jake kind of brought me out of retirement, and I met Velez, Jeffrey, and we started playing, and the Holy Smokes were sort of happening. And then what really did it was, I mentioned that I'd learned some double bass, and there's a store here. There's a chain of stores here. I think it's owned by Guitar Center. It's called Music and Arts. And I found out that you could rent an upright, a double bass, for like $60 a month or something. So I was like, this is great. I rented the bass, went to Rick's house. Peter, Rick, and I started rehearsing some songs. I think the first song we played was Elvis, and that got us ready to play at Tribus Brewery, which is kind of where Arevalo was born. Mm-hmm. And we did a few gigs at the brewery. And then pre-pandemic, this is actually November 2019, the three of us rented a house together. I was still doing the sales thing. They were still on the road with Goose. The pandemic happened. They came home in March. They did the Tease house the first weekend. And then the second weekend, we started the acoustic thing. Yeah. So we started Arevalo live streaming from our home, and we started doing those. And then Peter was finally mixing this Vasudo show, maybe from 2019. I was playing drums on the gig, and Ben showed up and sat in and played a few songs, and one of them was Cross-Eyed and Painless. And Peter was like, and I played percussion when Ben jumped on the kit. Peter was really into the sound of Goose plus percussion.
Right.
And then they started talking and sort of invited me to join the band. This is in May of 2020. So I had about a month to get my percussion chops together pre-bingo tour and learn all the songs. Yeah.
That must have been fun too. Your first show experience with Goose being one where the set list was completely random. And so you couldn't prepare, what was going to be played that night.
Yeah. Don't recommend it. I mean, I had a blast, but holy cow, what a way to make a debut with a band. Like, we don't know what's next. Good luck. You need to know 100 songs. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the Vasudo background and, having played some of the songs before must have helped, but that's still a crazy, being thrown into the deep end of the pool experience.
Yeah. And I think I was prepared for it. One, was my relationship with Rick and Trevor. And the other thing was just that, I learned how to play at open mics and jams, performing songs I didn't know in front of an audience.
Right.
So, it's not that I don't make mistakes. I think it's just that I know how to recover quickly or fake it until I make it, I guess.
Is there do you have a favorite memory from Bingo Tour? Like a moment that either stuck out to you as, oh my God, this is crazy, or just a moment where you felt that, it really clicked with the band?
A couple moments. The first one was that Jive 2 was the first ball pulled. And I was like, yes, I got this one. And we were actually doing double drums back then on Jive 2. Yeah. But no, I remember being really nervous that Rock the Casbah was going to get pulled, and I would have to sing immediately. And it didn't. I think that what happened is it didn't actually get pulled.
Yeah, you did it in Butter Rum on the encore of the last night.
Yes, we did that. We did that third set, I think. Live to Facebook.
So Butter Rum, Casbah Butter Rum, I think closed the fourth night, and then the secret set was Trevor singing "Achy Breaky Heart" and "Arrow."
Yeah, I remember being pretty exhausted during that third set.
Okay.
But yeah. Well, you know better than I do, so thank you.
I tried. It's the geekery. So do you have a favorite Goose song to play?
The first one that came to mind was SOS, Dawn.
Yeah.
That was just the first one that I was like, I can't wait to play this song. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, Dawn was the first thing that I recorded for the band, doubling Ben's drum part at our home when the boys came home during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that song is still one of my favorites.
How do you decide what songs get percussion and what songs you're on kit for? And does that change dependent on how you're feeling, or is it set in stone? Like every Bob Dawn, you're always on the kit, or all I need, you're always on conga?
It's definitely collaborative. In the beginning, it took me a really long time to sort of decide what to play on what song. And then I think there's some songs that obviously, need the percussion element. And then there's some songs where like I just don't really know what to play on percussion. So drum set makes more sense. Rich will give me some direction like, hey, play drums on this one. Or Ben will give me some direction like, hey, could you play percussion on this one?
Yeah.
So it's not set in stone. And, I've been known to hop on drums when I get excited. Or hop on percussion or whatever. So
you can tell sometimes on the video. I know the Arcadia from Radio City when you guys were with Trey. I know you don't usually play drums on that one, but you were like the peak of the jam. There's a good shot on the video where you're excited.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and then like so Arcadia, like there's a part in the outro where like it gets really big and loud, and sometimes having two drum sets right there is just really exciting.
Yeah. Do you and Ben practice separately from the rest of the band sometimes to dial in the sound, or is it just full band rehearsal?
We've definitely done of our share of shedding, but I think a lot of it is, all together. So we know exactly like, what everyone is doing.
Yeah. You guys sound very good as a dual drumming duo.
Thank you. We're still working on it.
Yeah. Going up from here is even more impressive. Your favorite meal for pre and post show?
Whew. This is hard. So shows on the road, touring, whatever. Sometimes, we're at the mercy of what food is available in the area.
Yeah.
Certain venues and festivals and that type of stuff have catering, which is nice. One thing about catering is you can't really choose what you eat a lot of times. Mm-hmm. But anytime it's like more of like a home cooked meal, that's great. I'm an omnivore. I like to eat, a burger or a steak or, tacos, pre-meal, pre-show. Post-show could be tacos, could be sushi. I've been known to make popcorn on the bus after a show. I think that covers it all.
It's good. Tacos are very, a meal for any occasion, I think.
I'm pro Mexican cuisine.
That's good. Me too.
Yeah.
Burrito is probably one of my favorite things to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So given the fact that you play drums for 3 hours a night at shows, like, do you consider yourself an athlete?
Yes and no. So I consider all musicians athletes because, I think that the upright bass may be even more physical than the drum set in a different way. But I think drummers more like athletes.
Yeah.
And, they tend to be the guys that, hit the gym and whatnot because it is so physical. I know Ben sweats a lot when he plays drums, and I sweat a lot when I'm the only drummer. I don't really sweat when I'm the second drummer because it's I think there's a lot less pressure there. But yes, and I go through periods where I'm either in the gym 5 days a week or I'm in the gym no days a week. So this is I'm back on another fitness journey.
Yeah.
You could say. I went to the gym last week for like maybe the fourth time this year, but you got to start somewhere. I'm a creature of habit, and like I said, I'm either doing it all the time or I'm not. So yes and no. I do play disc golf.
Nice. That's
probably my sport of choice. Bar sports are fun. I don't want to put myself in harm's way and like risk an injury playing a sport. So I have to like choose wisely.
Yeah.
And try to take care of my body, my hands especially. So
for sure. What has been your favorite venue that you've seen music in, and your favorite venue that you've played music?
This is really cool. And it's really hard because there's been a lot of venues, especially recently, honorable mention being Radio City, Mohegan Arena, Red Rocks, the Greek Theater, like the Sylvie in Madison, and then other like outdoor type places like the Caverns things like that. All very cool. This was like, it just came to me immediately. The coolest venue I've seen music at is Forest Hills Stadium. This is it's in Queens, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Brooklyn somewhere. Brooklyn, Queens. It is a giant tennis stadium that is almost like a coliseum. Apparently, they've been having music and doing concerts there since the Beatles in 1964 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But we recently went there and saw Bon Iver and Bonnie Light Horseman, and the venue blew me away. And I'm going back to see King Gizzard on October 21st, and I cannot wait. And what's funny is that my favorite venue to play music at is based off Forest Hills, and it's Westville Music Bowl. So these are two tennis stadiums turned concert venues.
Right.
And we've played Westville about twice a year now. Last year being the sort of CD release of Shenanigans Nightclub.
Yeah.
And this year sort of being similarly for Dripfield. You know, I love the staff there, really close with all the staff there, but the sound, it's just like it was built for sports, it's built for tennis, but imagine, think about a tennis match, right? You can really hear when they hit the ball and when the ball hits the court. So like you put drums in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like when I'm playing on the stage, I can hear the drums like bounce around and come back. It's just like, it's made for music, even though it was made for sports.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's really cool.
A venue that's on your bucket list to play.
MSG, the Gorge, I don't know, someplace in Europe I don't even know about.
Any European club?
Yeah, no, like, you know, maybe like the Coliseum or, you know, they got cool stuff over there that I don't even know about. Yeah.
I noticed recently at the beginning of this summer, I think you switched from regular in-ear monitors to over-ear headphones.
Ooh.
What was behind that decision? I know John Mayer did that with Dead and Company last year, and I think he spoke about how he can hear the rest of the band better and, you know, improves his play. Was that part of the reason? Were you know, drowning out your own in-ear mix with the drums you were playing?
Interesting. This is a hot topic. This is a really hot topic. And people even ask me like what I listen to on my headphones, which is really funny. So I never got like custom molds for my in-ears. So I was using these universal in-ears, which are basically just high-end earbuds. I was using the Shores, and I was just having a problem with them twisting in my ear canal and sort of like choking the signal, like losing the sound. And I got tired of adjusting that. And I'm really busy, so it was hard to get to the audiologist. So it was we were having some tech rehearsals at Rock Lidditz in Pennsylvania. I was just like, we'll get any headphones around here. Let me just try rocking some headphones.
Yeah.
And I immediately fell in love with it. And there's like at least three reasons. One, it's kind of weird to sing when you plug your ears. Yeah. And when you have in-ears in your ears, it's essentially plugging your ears. So I couldn't really get the hang of that. Number two, when you have the earbuds in, they say it's like, you know, 26 decibels of isolation or whatever. But when you're playing a drum set, the sound source is right in front of you. And so like I'm judging my dynamics and a lot of that off the sound coming immediately off the source. So I don't really want to plug my ears, and the headphones allow like a little bit more bleed so that I can actually hear myself better. And then lastly, vocally, just like I feel like the headphones are much bigger diaphragms. They're just larger speakers for your ears. Right. So things sound better, especially the voice. So it's just like it's easier to sing and it sounds better. And I think it's easier for me to tune my voice. And there's greater bass response. And it looks cool. And they're a lot easier to take on and off, which I like.
Yeah.
I just throw them on, throw them off. I don't have to like try to get this thing in my ear and do all this stuff, you know, and worry about the cable and all that. And Justin Vernon does it. You said John Mayer, but Justin Vernon from Bon Iver also wears headphones.
There you go. Where did the nickname Jeb come from?
It's really fun. It's funny how hard that one stuck. So pretty simply, we were all in the van, driving to 48 Festival, Green Skies Festival in West Virginia. And I like to give Trevor a break. I think I'm a better driver than I am a passenger. And he's done, many, many miles on the road. So I like to give him a break. And I was driving through West Virginia, and I think I went like too fast over some train tracks or something. And I was probably Coach, and he's like, "Dang, Jebediah, slow it down." And it just stuck. And here we are.
Yeah. Solid.
West Virginia, driving the van through West Virginia too fast.
It's a good way to get a nickname.
Yeah, it was definitely organic.
Yeah, that's good. So, what are you most excited about? This fall, obviously, Goose has a lot going on. You've got the Dripfield Fall Tour in October. You've got the Goose Tour in November. Goosemas in Colorado. New Year's in Cincinnati. The whole thing. What are a couple things about this upcoming fall that you are most excited about?
Well, I think you just named them all.
Yes.
So there's a few there. Really excited for this tour, the one we're about to leave on. Love New Orleans. I love Austin, Atlanta. I'm just really, really excited about a lot of the stops we're making along the way. And the tour actually ends on my birthday in Austin. Gonna have too much fun there, as I did last year. I'm gonna hang out for a couple of days and just take some time to explore the city. Maybe get down to San Antonio because I haven't been there. Really excited for that. Yeah, I'm very excited for ACL and Stubbs. I mean, Stubbs is like it's a legendary venue, so it's cool to play these places that your heroes and your idols have played, and like live recordings that you've cherished for years. Like so many artists have done live at Stubbs and ACL and all that stuff. So very excited for that. To Boost, I mean, to just share the stage with Trey again and the rest of the band. I got to meet Russ and Ciro at Peach. Russ is very excited for the drum jams, and as am I. And I'm very excited to get inside Ciro's world a little bit and learn from him.
There's a lot going on in there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm just like, I just hope I could scratch the surface there.
Yeah. You're going to walk away with some, pool flippers in your percussion rig by the end.
Just swinging tubes around and all kinds of stuff. So very excited for that. Also very excited to meet James Casey and hopefully take some saxophone lessons from him and or like get to play with him. I don't know. So that's very exciting. December, we love Goosemas. We love Colorado. Really excited for what's going to happen there. Yep. It's all coming together. And then last but not least, Cincinnati. I was born in Cincinnati.
Oh, man.
I moved to Southern Florida when I was 8 years old. It's a hometown show for me. All my family's going to be there. It's going to be my dad's first show. So shout out to Acoustic Pete. And a few people know this kind of, but I think Goose's first like big following was from the Cincinnati area, specifically Covington, Kentucky, which is just over the river in Kentucky. So excited for all that. I'm excited for what Gong Gang has coming for you. I'm excited for things I can't talk about. And I'm excited to make an album with my brother.
Amazing.
There's so much to be excited about.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on today. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
My pleasure. Don't forget, everybody, check out Tupelo Conjure's new single, Supernova, available on all streaming platforms. and you have lots of opportunities to see Jeff in one of his many incarnations or bands over the next few months. Don't forget, for all you Goose fans, Always Almost There will be live at 3:00 p.m. Eastern, the day after every Goose show for Fall Tour, for Taboose, Goosemas, and New Year's. Every show the day after. Come join us. Share your experience. If you are attending a show this fall and you would like to be a guest on Always Almost There Live, send us a DM on social media at aatgoosepod or email us aatgoosepod@gmail.com. We're very excited to be doing this and to have lots of participation. That's everything. Thank you again, Jeff. Hope everybody has a fantastic day. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.
Thank you.